Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I want to talk about the Clone Wars. Surprise, surprise, that might make sense as it is apparently due out next week, or at least next Thursday I think it would be. But I want to talk about why I don't think it's quite as hyped in the total wargaming community as I think it probably should have been. And why essentially I think this might be just the way that FFG handles its marketing in totality. I've spoken about this kind of issue before, but I just, Clone Wars hype's here and I just want to talk about it again, so do forgive me if you think you've heard this before. If though at the end of this video you like the video, press like, and if you're not subscribed to the channel and you're interested in Star Wars Legion, please do subscribe, it really does help. So what am I talking about, right? If you're a big Star Wars Legion fan, you'll be like, oh, Jay, I am super hyped for Clone Wars, and let me tell you, I have been hyped for Clone Wars for ages. If anything, the fact it's been too long that I've been hyped for Clone Wars. So let's just show you a couple of things. I'll show you like a Google Trend graph. I'm a little bit obsessed with these. It always seems, because I do too many of them. But let me just show you this, right? So what we're looking at here, this is 2007. This is when the game was announced. So anything before here is just people searching Star Wars Legion as a term on its own. This was when it was announced. Yeah, boom, bit of hype. Then the hype grew. Release, boom. Then you have a natural sort of decline once the hype sort of cools down. And we got an announcement of the Clone Wars here, but it was literally just, hey, the Clone Wars are coming. Here we got like, I think Chewie and Palp and stuff like that, so it was starting to ramp up, looking good. And then this little blip here, I think is when we first started seeing the first of the Clone Wars stuff. Like actual minis and boxes and rules and all that kind of stuff. And then it sort of flattening off. And you might be like, that seems fine, it's trending upwards, all's good. But I think with a little bit more coordination, we could have seen an actual blip here, like an actual decent, good spike. And I'm not sure we're going to see that necessarily. I think it's going to continue to trend upwards, but I'm not sure we're going to see that blip. And why might that be? Well, a couple of reasons. And the first reason is something I don't actually think FFG could change. So yeah, I'm not expecting this. And that's the release date has obviously kept changing. Obviously, they're saying they never promised September, and it was not a delay until October. Pretty much was a delay until October. And then they said October 4th, and then we've got October 18th, I believe, right? And delays are just part and parcel of it. But I don't necessarily mind that, but it goes hand in hand with, I think, the way that they... I've spoken about this before, and it is still just a guess. Nobody's ever told me I'm right or wrong. But essentially, I believe things just get shipped straight from China to your local wherever, which sometimes explains like Australia might get it first, and then the EU, and then America and stuff like that, because it's going from China and spreading out, right? And if there's manufacturing delays and all that kind of stuff, you can't really help that. As opposed to like where it's like maybe Games Workshop, who perhaps manufacture some of their own stuff internally, or have warehouses where they stock it and then ship them through to the stores. I don't really know how that works, but GW seems to have a proper hands-on grasp at when they're releasing stuff, was FFG maybe a little bit, or Asmodee as a whole, maybe a little bit more reliant on the manufacturer, right? Can't really help that one. So I'm not really going to go on about that one. But there's two things that I think they could have done that would have built up the hype, right? Two main things, I should say. One of them being, don't release this at Gen Con. Now, you might think, Jay, you might be like, Jay, you're just bitter. You didn't get it at Gen Con. You're just salty, right? True. Big true. Big true, right? Yes, for sure. You might think, a little bit salty. But let's and I'm going to show you my own personal Facebook. I do apologize if anybody named here doesn't want to be named, but I know particularly, I know Richard, he's been on the channel, so I'm pretty sure it will be okay. I'm just going to scroll through Facebook very briefly, and you can see, like, I already had it on this section here, but he's managed to, well, he's got somebody to paint a General Grievous for him with some LEDs and stuff like that, looking pretty damn sweet, not going to lie. But people have already had access to this from Gen Con, and if I scroll further down, I'm sure I'll find some more. There's some ARC Troopers. Do you know what I mean? Like, people have had some Clone Wars stuff from Gen Con. And what this sort of relates to is, apart from saltiness on my end, which, don't get me wrong, is a factor, it's fatigue. People get fatigued with seeing all this stuff and not being able to have it, the majority of people not being able to have it. I don't know how many boxes were sold at Clone Wars. Even if it was 1,000, there's still thousands and thousands of people who don't have access to it, but you're still going to see stuff on Facebook and just in general, people talking about the rules and all that kind of stuff. And that goes hand in hand a little bit with like the marketing, which is one thing I think FFG possibly don't do as well as Games Workshop. You know, I've said this before. If anything, let's see if I can bring this one up. You know, I've spoken about it before, but I'm going to mention it again. Games Workshop, they're so good at it. Like, it's hard to not be impressed. And this could be due to the manufacturing, but you know, there could be other reasons. But let's look at, say, Blood of the Phoenix, right? It was, as far as I can see, it may have been mentioned before this, but it was essentially officially announced this week on the 6th of the 10th, which was, you know, the weekend just gone. And it's going to go for pre-order on this weekend coming up, and then it'll be released the weekend after. That's 2 weeks. So you basically get a full reveal. I don't know if they actually did speak about it beforehand. Let's just have a look. They might have done, they might not have done. I don't see anything that talks about that too much, but they have spoke about the Psychic Awakening. I know that's a whole big thing that's going on in 40k, but specifically that Eldari box set, they spoke about 2 weeks, well, they're going to 2 weeks before it releases, right? That builds hype at that exact moment. You announce something, you build the hype to it very quickly, and you get the sales very quickly, which is a problem in its own right. Yes, sure. As opposed to, say, what we had with like FFG. I've got nothing really to show you here, but FFG, I don't mind the fact that they announced it last Gen Con, just because we didn't see anything, but then we saw stuff at like March, April time, and we've been ramping up till now. But I think that was 7 months ago, basically. And fatigue, I honestly think fatigue is setting. Yes, the fact that you can go on Facebook or Reddit or the forums and see people painting it and posting pictures of the Gen Con stuff is one thing. But the fact that we've been talking about it now for so long, it just gets a little bit tiresome. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it's going to be a fantastic release. It's a greatly needed addition to Star Wars Legion. I'm very happy for it. Very happy to have it. I look forward to it 100%. But you get fatigued about it, and now I'm already eyeing the new stuff. I want Anakin, Yoda, all this kind of stuff. You know, I want that now because I want something to pump it up. Now, don't get me wrong, FFG in the next week or whenever this game is actually coming out, whenever they, you know, probably towards the end of next week, they're going to show some new releases. I almost guarantee it, because they want to build interest in Legion, so that you buy the current Legion product. However, I think it just would have been better if, let's imagine a world like this. Yeah, we got the announcement at Gen Con that Star Wars Clone Wars was coming because of the Clone Wars TV show, I don't mind. But let's say we only had a little bit of info, say in March, and then really all of the rules and hype and stuff started building at Gen Con, from Gen Con onwards, right? And you didn't sell it at Gen Con. Because if you sell it at Gen Con, you sort of diminish the hype a little bit. And one thing I think they should have done, I tried to get press access and stuff like that, but it's just difficult with the way Asmodee do their thing. But I honestly think that they should have done it the way that they did the original release, which is have a proper NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement, and you send it out to press sources, and you say, this is the day that you go live. The way Games Workshop do that with like YouTubers and stuff like that, and Beast of War, that kind of stuff, and they all release their stuff all at once. Boom. And you just create like a massive hype bubble, right? Everybody's familiar with the Games Workshop hype bubble, surely, at this point, if you're interested in war games. And having that NDA really would have just pushed it. I'm not saying I should, obviously, I would very much, if I would have got access to it and would have been able to be part of that, I would have benefited from that. But I think as a whole, we all want Legion to be hyped, and I think that's one way that would have done it, regardless of my own personal feelings, if I would have got it or not got it or what have you. And those, I said two things, but I think it's sort of mainly three things. It's don't sell it at Gen Con, because it just diminishes the hype that some people can get it and some people can't. And I very much appreciate you want to reward the people at Gen Con who have come all that way to see you and stuff like that. If you were ever going to release just a special miniature or something, Gen Con would be it. Not that I agree with those, but let's just talk about this for now. Get a proper do the NDA, just do it. Have your hype in the press as well. be it on Tabletop, Beast of War, be it Spiky Bits, be it whoever it is, all the YouTubers and stuff like that. Send it them early. Even though at the minute I know you appreciate that they actually say that they can't send it early, but then they did get Gen Con stuff, so who knows about that. But like consolidate that marketing team into be able to just get products out early, get proper NDAs, and have a proper like we're going to announce and release and reveal stuff all at this time, and have a schedule that's closer to release. And that's the other thing. It's like the marketing for these big release has been literally like too spread out. And there's always been the problem where like, oh, we know about a unit that was coming out 6 months before it came out and people get fatigued like that. But with your big releases, you really don't want that to happen. On that trend graph I showed you at the start, you want a big trend graph to get as many sales and as many people hyped all at that moment. And I think I don't want to say, I don't know, I'm not blaming anybody particularly. I don't know if it's FFG, Asmodee. I don't know who or what's going on. I don't know who's part of it. I'm sure there's like lots of factors that I literally don't know anything about. But it doesn't feel like they're moving towards that. It doesn't feel like anything is changing. It feels like everything is the status quo. We know we're literally going to have had like 7 months, I think, from the reveal of the first miniatures for the Clone Wars to when it's released. And I mean, Gen Con was two months ago now, 2 and a bit months ago. It's tiresome, isn't it, to have people, to be able to just see people have all the stuff that you don't have. Like, and if you do have it, you've not, like, what have you really been able to do with it? This is a point that I haven't even properly moved on to, but I do think that the set of releases the Clone Wars, perhaps not as great as it should have been. It's like they didn't learn the lesson from when the game actually came out, where it had far too few units. We've got the same kind of issue with the Clone Wars factions, in my opinion. I think it should have been it should have been a bigger wave. Now, if that would have been wait until December, when you've got your Phase 2 troopers and all that kind of stuff, and maybe a Special Forces or whatever, so be it. I think that would have been a bit better, in my opinion, because I did a buyer's guide for the Clone Wars, and sadly, the main outcome of that is, hey, you probably should just buy what you want right now and then wait. Buy a couple of core boxes, paint them up, and wait until something else is out, and then just keep maybe buying one of everything, because otherwise you're going to end up with lots of the stuff at the core, which you might not be using in 6 months' time anyway, because there might be extra cool stuff that you want to use. So that's, if I was going to do point number 4, I'd say more releases at the Clone Wars release. But I don't, I've ranted here. This is very much a rant video, and I always say this. I think, and I'm not calling myself a journalist here, but I think sometimes you've got to say what people wouldn't want you to say, and I think in this sense, obviously FFG prefer I come out and be like, great marketing, I'm so hyped, it's so great. But I think the reality is sometimes you've got to say, actually, I think this could be done a little bit in a better way. And don't get me wrong, I still think the miniatures are going to be great. The game is still incredible. I'm still very excited to play it. I just would have liked a little bit of more recognition from FFG that this is like a big release. We got this once. If we had the core set and then another core set, it's been a year and a half after the first one. If this is a year and a half cycle of like big releases, then make them big releases. I'm not saying you have to do this with all the monthly releases, but with your big release, boom, NDA it, don't Gen Con it, get it to the people on a set release date. Well, and announce that 3 months ago. Announce that at Gen Con, say it's coming in 2 months, surprise everybody, boom, build out that hype. That's what I would have liked. I'm still very much interested in the Clone Wars and looking forward to going to a Star Wars Legion tournament hopefully this month. But you know, I just wish it was a little bit more hyphy, as people don't say anymore. That's my rant over. I do apologise. It's been a longer than usual one. Thank you for anybody who stuck with me there. Let me know your thoughts on it. I mean, are you still looking forward to the Clone Wars? I mean, or do you understand my point? Do you think, oh, maybe there has been a little bit of fatigue? Or do you think, nah, mate, I'm actually loving seeing people post stuff on Facebook. It's just getting me more hyped. Like, Ali G, I do apologise, I'm off. I just lose it towards the end of the videos, don't I? Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.